First contact. The day Earth's skies changed forever started like any other for Dr. Lena Chen. She yawned, stretching as she rose from her desk in the xenobiology lab at NASA's Ames Research Center. Another late night poring over theoretical alien biology papers. She chuckled to herself, wondering if she'd ever get to apply her knowledge to actual extraterrestrial life. Little did she know, that opportunity was about to come knocking, or rather, hovering, right over her head. The first sign that something was amiss came when every screen in the lab suddenly flickered to life, displaying an emergency broadcast. Lena's heart raced as she read the bold text scrolling across the monitors. Unidentified OBGCT, entering Earth's orbit. This is not a drill. For a moment, the lab fell silent. Then chaos erupted. Phones rang off the hook, researchers shouted across the room, and the air filled with a mix of excitement and fear. Lena stood frozen, her mind reeling with possibilities. Could it be? After all these years of searching, had first contact finally arrived? As if in answer to her unspoken question, a booming voice echoed through the lab's speakers. "Attention all personnel," announced Director Harrington, his usually calm demeanor tinged with barely contained excitement. "We have confirmed that the object in orbit is of extraterrestrial origin. I need all department heads in the conference room immediately. Dr. Chen, your presence is specifically requested." Lena's breath caught in her throat. But she was just a junior researcher, barely out of her postdoc. Why would they need her? Nevertheless, she grabbed her tablet and practically sprinted to the conference room, her heart pounding with each step. The room was already buzzing with activity when she arrived. Faces both familiar and unknown turned to look at her as she entered, some curious, others skeptical. Director Harrington nodded to her, gesturing for her to take a seat. "Dr. Chen," he began, "your theoretical work on potential alien biology has caught the attention of our visitors. They've requested to speak with you directly." Lena's jaw dropped. Me? But sir, I've never even. "None of us have," Harrington cut her off gently. "But your papers on cross-species communication and potential alien physiologies are the closest thing we have to expertise in this situation. Are you ready to make history, Dr. Chen?" Was she ready? Lena's mind raced through years of study, late nights in the lab, and countless simulations. This was what she'd been preparing for her entire career, even as she never truly believed it would happen. She took a deep breath, steadying herself, and nodded. "Yes, sir, I'm ready." The next few hours passed in a blur. Lena found herself whisked away to a secure communications center, where a team of linguists and computer scientists had been working around the clock to establish a common language with the alien vessel. They'd made remarkable progress, thanks in part to the aliens' advanced translation technology. As Lena settled into a seat before a large view screen, she felt a mix of terror and exhilaration. This was it, the moment humanity had been waiting for since we first looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone. The screen flickered to life, and Lena found herself face to face with an alien. The being before her was unlike anything she had imagined. Its body seemed to shimmer, as if composed of millions of tiny, iridescent scales. Two large, multifaceted eyes regarded her with unmistakable intelligence, while a series of tendrils around what she assumed was its head waved gently, as if floating in water. "Greetings, Dr. Lena Chen of Earth," the alien spoke, its voice a melodious trill that seemed to bypass her ears and resonate directly in her mind. "I am Zara X, lead xenobiologist of the Galactic Science Academy. We have traveled far to meet your species." Lena swallowed hard, forcing herself to remember her training. "Greetings, Zara X," she replied, her voice surprisingly steady. "On behalf of humanity, welcome to Earth. We are honored by your presence and eager to learn from you." Zara X's tendrils rippled in what Lena hoped was a positive response. "The honor is ours, Dr. Chen. Your species has long fascinated us. Your resilience, your creativity, your capacity for growth, truly remarkable. We have studied you from afar, But now we wish to learn more. Directly. A thrill ran through Lena. We would be delighted to share our knowledge with you, Zara X, and we have so many questions about your civilization, your technology, your biology. Yes, Zara X interrupted, its tendrils twisting in what seemed like excitement. It is biology that interests us most. Specifically, your methods of reproduction. They are quite unusual in our experience. Lena blinked, caught off guard by the directness of the question. Our reproduction. Well, I suppose it would seem unusual to a species so different from our own. What exactly would you like to know? Zara X's multifaceted eyes seemed to sparkle. Everything, Dr. Chen. But perhaps we should start with the basics. Is it true that your species engages in physical contact for reproduction, and that this process can also be performed recreationally? Lena felt her cheeks flush. Of all the topics for first contact, she hadn't expected alien sex ed to be on the agenda. But she was a scientist, and this was a perfectly valid area of inquiry. She took a deep breath and launched into an explanation of human reproductive biology, trying to keep her tone as clinical and professional as possible. As she spoke, she noticed Zara X's tendrils twisting and curling in increasingly complex patterns. Was this a sign of confusion? Disgust? Fascination? It was impossible to tell. Fascinating, Zara X trilled when Lena finished her explanation. And this process, this sex as you call it occurs frequently among your population. Well, yes, Lena admitted, feeling increasingly awkward. It's a natural and important part of human life and relationships. Zara X's entire body seemed to shimmer more intensely. Relationships? You mean this activity is not solely for reproduction? Lena realized she had opened a can of worms she wasn't entirely prepared to deal with. How does one explain the complexities of human sexuality and relationships to an alien species? She took a deep breath, reminding herself that this was a scientific exchange. No need to be embarrassed. Human relationships and sexuality are complex topics, she began carefully. While reproduction is certainly one aspect, physical intimacy serves many purposes in our society. It can be an expression of love, a way to build and maintain emotional bonds, or simply a source of pleasure. Zara X's tendrils twisted in what Lena was beginning to interpret as intense interest. Love, pleasure. These concepts are unfamiliar to us in this context. Our species reproduces through a process of genetic recombination that requires no physical contact. The idea of deriving pleasure from such an act is intriguing. Lena found herself fascinated by this glimpse into alien biology and culture. Your method of reproduction sounds incredibly efficient, she said. I'd love to learn more about it. Perhaps we could arrange a cultural exchange. I could explain more about human relationships and reproduction, and you could teach me about your species. Zara X's body pulsed with a soft light. An excellent proposal, Dr. Chen. We accept. This exchange of knowledge will be invaluable to both our species. As the conversation continued, Lena felt a growing sense of wonder. Here she was, discussing the intricacies of human and alien biology with a being from another world. It was everything she had ever dreamed of and more. But as Zara X's questions became increasingly specific and personal, Lena began to realize that this cultural exchange might be more complicated and potentially more awkward than she had anticipated. She only hoped that her explanations wouldn't lead to any misunderstandings. Little did she know, the real challenges and surprises were only just beginning. The galactic Tinder incident. Dr. Lena Chen never imagined her expertise in xenobiology would lead to her becoming Earth's unofficial interstellar sex educator. Yet here she was, preparing for another video conference with Zara X, trying to figure out how to explain the concept of dating apps to an alien scientist. Okay, Lena, you've got this, she muttered to herself, adjusting her lab coat and smoothing back her hair. Just treat it like any other scientific exchange. No need to be embarrassed about explaining Tinder to an extraterrestrial. The screen flickered to life, revealing Zara X's shimmering form. Today, the alien's iridescent scales seem to pulse with an excited energy. "Greetings, Dr. Chen." Zara X's melodious voice trilled. "I've been eagerly anticipating our discussion. Your last explanation about human dating rituals was most illuminating. I've prepared several follow-up questions that I believe will help clarify some confusing aspects." Lena took a deep breath. "Of course, Zara X, I'm happy to help. What would you like to know?" Zara X's tendrils twisted in what Lena now recognized as their equivalent to furrowing a brow. "I've been observing human communication channels, what you call the internet, and I've come across something puzzling. Can you explain the purpose of these dating apps, particularly one called Tinder?" Lena nearly choked on her coffee. Of all the aspects of human culture for an alien to stumble upon, it had to be Tinder. She cleared her throat, trying to maintain her professional demeanor. "Well, Zara X, dating apps are digital platforms that help humans connect with potential romantic or sexual partners. Tinder, in particular, is known for its efficiency in facilitating these connections." Zara X's multifaceted eyes seemed to sparkle with curiosity. "Fascinating. So humans use technology to optimize their reproductive processes. How wonderfully logical." Lena cringed inwardly. This was going to be a long day. "Not exactly," she began, choosing her words carefully. "While some humans do use these apps with the eventual goal of reproduction, many use them simply to meet new people, form relationships, or engage in casual sexual encounters without any intention of reproducing." Zara X's entire body pulsed with a soft light, a sign of intense interest. Lena had learned. "Casual sexual encounters? You mean humans engage in reproductive behaviors, recreationally, on a regular basis?" Lena nodded, feeling her cheeks flush. "Yes, that's correct. Human sexuality is complex and serves multiple purposes beyond reproduction. Physical intimacy can be a source of pleasure, emotional bonding, stress relief, and more." Zara X's tendrils twisted rapidly, processing this information. "Remarkable. And these dating apps facilitate such encounters efficiently. Tell me, Dr. Chen, have you personally utilized this Tinder application?" Lena's blush deepened. That's not really relevant to our scientific discussion, Zara X." But the alien was persistent. "On the contrary, Dr. Chen, personal experience data would be invaluable to our understanding. Perhaps you could demonstrate the use of this application." Before Lena could protest, Zora X's image on the screen shifted, revealing a sophisticated holographic interface. "I've taken the liberty of creating a simulation based on the data available on your internet. Shall we explore this Tinder together?" Lena's jaw dropped as she watched Zara X's tentacles swipe through holographic Tinder profiles. This was definitely not covered in her xenobiology training. "Zara X, I'm not sure this is appropriate." "Oh, how intriguing." Zara X interrupted, focusing on a particular profile. "This human's bio states they are DTF. What does this acronym signify? Is it a human mating call?" Lena buried her face in her hands. How had her life come to this? Explaining hookup culture to an alien scientist was definitely not in her job description. "It's a colloquialism," Lena managed, trying to maintain some semblance of professionalism. "It generally indicates a willingness to engage in casual sexual activity." Zara X's body shimmered with excitement. "Fascinating. Your species has developed a coded language for reproductive intentions. Truly efficient." As Zora X continued to swipe through the simulated Tinder profiles, asking increasingly detailed questions about human mating habits, Lena couldn't help but marvel at the absurdity of the situation. Here she was, Earth's top xenobiologist, giving an alien a crash course in human hookup culture. It was simultaneously the most mortifying and most hilarious moment of her career. "Dr. Chen," Zara X's voice pulled her from her thoughts. "I believe I've made a match. The interface is prompting me to send a message. What is the appropriate protocol here? Should I initiate a discussion about genetic compatibility?" Lena couldn't hold back anymore. She burst into laughter, the tension of the past few weeks finally breaking. "Oh, Zara X," she managed between giggles. "Human dating is so much more complicated than that. And yet, sometimes it's as simple as saying hello." Zara X's tendrils curled in confusion. "I don't understand. If the goal is to assess reproductive compatibility, why begin with such a vague greeting?" Wiping tears of laughter from her eyes, Lena realized she had an opportunity here. Not just to explain human culture, but to bridge the gap between their species in a way no one had before. "You know what, Zara X? Let's start from the beginning. Forget Tinder for now. Let me tell you about human relationships, the good, the bad, and the wonderfully messy. It's time you learned about the true complexity of human connection." And so, as the artificial sun set on the alien ship's holodeck, Dr. Lena Chen began the most unusual lecture of her life, a comprehensive guide to human love, dating, and relationships, delivered to an audience of one very confused but incredibly eager alien scientist. Little did Lena know, this conversation would soon spark an intergalactic incident that would test the limits of human diplomacy, challenge the boundaries of interspecies understanding, and maybe, just maybe, change the course of galactic history. As Zara X absorbed every word with rapt attention, one thing became clear: the universe would never be the same again. The intergalactic Kama Sutra debacle. Dr. Lena Chen's life had taken a turn for the surreal. What started as a simple cultural exchange had snowballed into a full-blown intergalactic incident, and it all centered around one infamous book, the Kama Sutra. "Zara X, I really don't think this is necessary," Lena pleaded, her face burning as she watched the alien scientist's holographic tendrils flip through a projected copy of the ancient Indian text. "But Dr. Chen," Zara X's melodious voice trilled with excitement, "this Kama Sutra is a fascinating historical document. It provides such detailed insights into human mating practices. Are all these positions still in common use?" Lena pinched the bridge of her nose, wondering how she'd explain this to her superiors. "Zara X, the Kama Sutra is more of a historical curiosity. It doesn't accurately represent modern human sexual practices." But the alien was undeterred. "Fascinating. So humans have evolved beyond these techniques? What new innovations have you developed? Perhaps we should conduct a galaxy-wide survey to compare sexual practices across different species." "Absolutely not," Lena yelped, imagining the diplomatic nightmare that would ensue. "Zara X, we need to focus on more appropriate topics for interspecies discussion." Zara X's tendrils drooped in what Lena had come to recognize as disappointment. "But Dr. Chen, understanding reproductive practices is crucial for comprehending a species' evolution and social structures. Surely, a thorough examination of human sexuality would benefit both our cultures." Lena sighed, realizing she needed to change tactics. "You're right that sexuality is an important part of human culture, Zara X, but it's also very personal and often private. Maybe we could explore other aspects of human relationships first." Zara X perked up. "An excellent suggestion, Dr. Chen. Perhaps we could start with your human concept of love. It seems to play a significant role in your mating rituals, yet its biological purpose remains unclear to me." Lena relaxed slightly, grateful for the shift in topic. "Well, love is a complex emotion, Fat." She was interrupted by a sudden commotion outside her lab. The door burst open, revealing a flustered-looking government official. "Dr. Chen," he panted, "we have a situation. The alien delegation has submitted a formal request to the United Nations. They're demanding a live demonstration of human mating practices." Lena's jaw dropped. "They what?" The official continued, his face red with embarrassment. "Apparently, they believe it's crucial for interspecies understanding. They're citing your conversations with Zara X as justification." Lena turned to the screen, where Zara X was watching the exchange with apparent fascination. "Zara X, did you put in this request?" The alien's tendrils twisted in what might have been a shrug. Of course, Dr. Chen, your explanations have been most illuminating, but as scientists, we believe in the importance of observational data. Is this not a standard part of cultural exchange on Earth? Lena groaned, realizing the magnitude of the misunderstanding she'd inadvertently created. Zara X, humans don't. We don't publicly demonstrate mating practices. It's private, personal. Zara X's multifaceted eyes blinked in confusion. But what about these pornographic films I discovered on your internet? Are they not demonstrations of human mating? The government official made a choking sound. Lena wished the floor would open up and swallow her whole. Those are complicated, Lena managed, feeling like she was navigating a minefield. They're not accurate representations of typical human sexual behavior. They're more like entertainment. Zara X's body pulsed with light, a sign of intense interest. Entertainment. You derive pleasure from observing others' mating rituals. Fascinating. Perhaps we should organize an intergalactic film festival to compare different species. No. Lena and the official shouted in unison. Lena took a deep breath, realizing she needed to regain control of the situation before it spiraled even further out of hand. Zara X, I think we need to have a serious discussion about privacy, consent, and the complexities of human sexuality. And maybe we should consider bringing in some experts in interspecies communication to help us navigate these sensitive topics. Zara X's tendrils curled thoughtfully. An intriguing proposal, Dr. Chen. I look forward to expanding our knowledge base. Perhaps we could start by discussing why humans seem to have such strong emotional reactions to these topics. The biochemical responses you and your colleague are displaying are most intriguing. As Lena launched into an explanation of embarrassment, cultural taboos, and the intricacies of human social norms, she couldn't help but marvel at the absurdity of her situation. Here she was, Earth's reluctant ambassador of sex ed, trying to prevent an intergalactic incident sparked by an alien's misunderstanding of human porn. Little did she know, this was just the beginning. As news of the alien delegation's unusual request spread across the globe, Lena would find herself at the center of a media frenzy, navigating the choppy waters of interstellar diplomacy and possibly revolutionizing humanity's approach to sex education in the process. One thing was certain, the universe would never look at Earth the same way again. And Lena, well, she was starting to think that maybe, just maybe, she should have stuck to studying alien plant life instead. The cosmic condom conundrum. Dr. Lena Chen never imagined she'd be standing in front of the United Nations Security Council, about to give a presentation on human contraception to a room full of world leaders and alien diplomats. Yet here she was, clutching her tablet and trying not to hyperventilate. Dr. Chen, the Secretary General, nodded. You may begin. Lena took a deep breath, glancing at Zara X, who sat in the alien delegations section, tendrils waving eagerly. She hit the button to start her presentation, and a gigantic hologram of a condom appeared above the assembly. A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. Lena winced. This was going to be a long day. Distinguished delegates, she began, her voice only slightly shaky. Today we'll be discussing human methods of contraception as requested by our enthusiastic extraterrestrial guests. Zara X's voice chimed in, aided by a translator. Ah yes, the mysterious condom. Tell us, Dr. Chen, is it true that humans encase their reproductive organs in these latex sheaths? Fascinating. Lena felt her face heat up as every eye in the room turned to her. Well, yes, that's one method. You see, human contraception comes in many forms. What followed was perhaps the most awkward 2 hours in the history of international diplomacy. Lena valiantly struggled through explanations of birth control pills, IUDs, and vasectomies, all while fielding increasingly bizarre questions from the alien delegation. But Dr. Chen, one alien ambassador, inquired, if these methods prevent reproduction, why engage in the act at all? Is it not inefficient? Before Lena could respond, Zara X excitedly chimed in. Oh, I can answer that. Humans derive pleasure from the act itself. They have entire industries dedicated to enhancing this pleasure. Dr. Chen, perhaps you could elaborate on these sex toys I've read about. The room erupted into chaos. Some delegates looked scandalized, others curious, and a few were clearly trying not to laugh. Lena wished she could melt into the floor. That's not really relevant to our discussion on contraception, she managed weakly. But the alien delegation was not to be deterred. On the contrary, Dr. Chen. Zara X insisted. Understanding the full spectrum of human sexual practices is crucial for our cultural exchange. Perhaps a practical demonstration is in order? Absolutely not. Lena and half the human delegates shouted in unison. As Lena tried to steer the conversation back to safer territory, she couldn't help but marvel at the absurdity of the situation. Here she was, giving the galaxy's most awkward sex ed class to a room full of world leaders and aliens. If only her old biology professors could see her now. Just when Lena thought things couldn't get any more surreal, alarms began blaring throughout the building. Panic ensued as security personnel rushed into the room. We have a situation, a stern-faced agent announced. It appears that information from this unique presentation has been leaked to the public. #Cosmic Condoms is trending worldwide, and we're receiving reports of people trying to send contraceptives into space via weather balloons. Lena's jaw dropped. This had to be a nightmare. Any moment now, she'd wake up in her lab, drooling on her xenobiology textbooks. But no, this was her new reality. As chaos swirled around her, Lena locked eyes with Zara X across the room. The alien scientist's tendrils were curled in what Lena now recognized as their equivalent of a mischievous grin. Dr. Chen, Zara X's voice cut through the commotion. I believe I'm beginning to understand the human concept of viral marketing. Shall we seize this opportunity to launch an intergalactic safe sex campaign? And just like that, Dr. Lena Chen, formerly obscure xenobiologist, found herself at the center of the galaxy's most unlikely public health initiative. As she watched hashtags like #AlienApproved Protection and #Intergalactic Safe Sex explode across social media, she couldn't help but laugh. After all, if humanity was going to make first contact with alien life, why shouldn't it be with a bang? Or rather, with the responsible prevention of unintended consequences from said bang. As Lena prepared to face the onslaught of media interviews, diplomatic negotiations, and undoubtedly more alien questions about the intricacies of human sexuality, she realized something profound. In her quest to understand alien life, she'd ended up teaching humanity to look at itself in a whole new light. And maybe, just maybe, that was the greatest discovery of all. Little did Lena know, the cosmic condom conundrum was just the beginning. The universe, it seemed, had a lot more in store for Earth's reluctant sexpert-turned-interstellar ambassador. But that, as they say, is a story for another dimension. The Galactic Gamete Gala. Dr. Lena Chen never imagined she'd be the host of the universe's most controversial talk show, but life had a funny way of defying expectations these days. As she adjusted her microphone and smoothed down her lab coat, she took a deep breath, reminding herself that this was all in the name of science and intergalactic diplomacy. Welcome back to Cosmic Copulation Corner, Lena announced to the camera, trying to keep a straight face, where we explore the ins and outs of interspecies relationships across the galaxy. I'm your host, Dr. Lena Chen, and today we have a very special episode, the Galactic Gamete Gala. The studio audience, a mix of humans and various alien species, erupted into cheers and tentacle waves. Lena still couldn't believe this was her life now. Joining us today is our regular co-host, Zara X, and a panel of reproductive experts from across the Milky Way. Lena continued, gesturing to the eclectic group beside her. We'll be discussing the fascinating topic of gamete diversity in the universe. Buckle up, folks, it's going to be a wild ride. Zara X's tendrils wiggled excitedly. Indeed, Dr. Chen, I'm particularly thrilled to learn more about the human sperm race. It sounds like a most invigorating sporting event. Lena choked back a laugh. Ah, Zara X, I think you might have misunderstood. The sperm race isn't actually a sport. It's a natural biological process where... But Dr. Chen interrupted Gloop Gloop, a gelatinous being from the Andromeda galaxy. Our research indicates that humans often treat his sperm race as a competition. We've observed numerous products advertised to enhance performance. Is this not a recognized Olympic event? The audience roared with laughter as Lena felt her face heat up. No, Gloop Gloop, it's not an Olympic event. Those products are, well, it's complicated. Fascinating, chimed in Dr. Xylophoid, a tree-like creature from a distant nebula. In my species, we release our pollen into the cosmic winds and hope for the best. This targeted approach of yours seems much more efficient. Tell us, do you have brackets and betting pools for these races? Lena buried her face in her hands, wondering for the 1000th time how this had become her life. No, we don't have betting pools for reproductive events. Let's move on to discuss the variety of gamete types across different species, shall we? But the panel was not to be deterred. Dr. Chen, Zara X interjected, I've been meaning to ask. These fertility clinics on Earth, are they training grounds for your top sperm athletes? The audience was in stitches now, and even Lena couldn't hold back a chuckle. Not exactly. Zara X fertility clinics help humans who have difficulty conceiving. They're medical facilities, not sports centers. Oh, Zara X's tendrils drooped in disappointment, and here I was hoping to attend a championship match. As the conversation devolved into increasingly absurd misunderstandings about human reproduction, Lena found herself caught between exasperation and amusement. She'd never imagined her xenobiology degree would lead to her explaining the birds and the bees to the entire galaxy. Just as she was about to steer the conversation back to more scientific topics, a frantic producer rushed onto the set, whispering urgently in Lena's ear. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all genders, Lena announced, her voice shaking slightly, we've just received some breaking news. It appears that an anonymous group has launched a Kickstarter campaign to fund the first-ever intergalactic sperm Olympics. The studio erupted into chaos. Alien delegates cheered, human audience members looked bewildered, and Zara X's entire body lit up like a Christmas tree. Marvelous, Zara X exclaimed. Dr. Chen, surely you'll be the head judge for this momentous event. Your expertise is unparalleled in the field of comparative xenoreproduction. Lena's mind reeled. This had to be a joke, right? But as she watched the Kickstarter pledges skyrocket on the studio's monitors, she realized this was all too real. I'm not sure that's appropriate, Lena stammered. Besides, how would we even organize such an event? The physiological differences between species are too vast. Not to worry, Dr. Chen, Gloop Gloop burbled enthusiastically. My team has been developing a universal gamete translator. With some modifications, we could create a standardized competition format. As the panel launched into an animated discussion about potential event categories, longest distance swim, most robust genetic package, and best synchronized fertilization routine were among the suggestions, Lena found herself torn between scientific fascination and utter disbelief. Wait, she finally managed to interject. We need to consider the ethical implications, the potential for genetic contamination, But her protests were drowned out by the excitement in the studio. As hashtags like #GalacticGametagames and #SpermOlympics 2030 began trending across Earth and beyond, Lena realized she had inadvertently sparked a reproductive revolution. As the show wrapped up, with promises of more updates on the developing intergalactic sperm Olympics, Lena slumped in her chair, exhausted but oddly exhilarated. Well, Dr. Chen, Zara X said, patting her shoulder with a tendril, it seems we've made quite a splash in the cosmic pond. Who knew human reproduction could be so entertaining? Lena couldn't help but laugh. Zara X, I think we've just changed the course of intergalactic history. For better or worse, the universe will never look at reproduction the same way again. As she left the studio, already dreading the barrage of calls from NASA, the UN, and probably every ethics committee in the solar system, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The galactic Gamete Gala had opened a Pandora's box of interstellar reproductive shenanigans, and she was along for the ride. One thing was certain: the future of xenobiology was going to be anything but boring, and Lena, despite her better judgment, couldn't wait to see what the universe had in store next. Little did she know, the upcoming intergalactic sperm Olympics would be just the tip of the iceberg in humanity's wild journey into cosmic reproduction.